The days are getting longer, the first flowers have appeared, and the warmer weather has a lot of us who live where winters are cold feeling a little sunnier. We're talking about the spring season and growing flowers today on Still Time for Joy, and how one man found his purpose by getting closer to the land. Hello, I'm Sandra Levine, host of Still Time for Joy. My guest today is Chris Difeo, owner of Lanza's Flower Farm in Wall Township, New Jersey. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Hi, Sandy. Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. So spring is here. What does that mean on the farm?
Yeah, so spring being here for us means flowers and more flowers. With the weather getting nicer and temperatures, rising, everyone's kind of thinking it's time to get some flowers and, get into spring and get into summer. So for us, all of our greenhouses are full of flowers and we're growing and planting every day.
Yeah, in New Jersey this winter, we even had some quite cold weather. We had some snowstorms, so everybody just feels a little bit of extra energy now that the days are getting nicer. So, what is growing in all your greenhouses? What can I see when I come to the farm?
Yeah, so starting with the first part of the season, that's called pansy season. So that's the pansy flower. That's the first main season that we deal with. So that's your first flower you're going to see. And then from there, there's all the popular stuff like geraniums, petunias, begonias, all sorts of flowers like that. Pretty much recognizable that you see all spring and summer in people's houses.
And you grow these plants from scratch, right? How does it work? Tell me a little bit about how your farm operates.
So we grow everything we sell here. So we're propagators on top of being growers. So what we do is we start with a young cutting, almost like a seedling, but it's a young cutting of a plant, and then we grow them up from that stage. Technically, it's called like a plug stage or a young plant stage. And from there, we grow them up into the greenhouses and then grow them bigger and fuller, which ultimately then turn into something that people buy.
Now, I find it so interesting that you weren't always a farmer. Tell me about your family's business and how much time you spent in that business, and what was the feeling inside of you that made you know you wanted to make a change?
Yeah, good question. So my family's business is the auto industry. So I come from a family of car dealers, and I spent 18 years or so actively in that industry. I'm a Chevrolet dealer, and it's a kind of a family business, and I did that for a long time. Still in the business, but at a point in my 40s, I kind of got to a stage when I wanted to try something different. I've always been really into growing plants and I've always been into horticulture. I worked at a few flower farms in high school and college. So one thing kind of led to another and I got into this idea of horticulture or being a grower, and it almost took on a life of its own, and never really saw it coming, but it ended up becoming my main job and my main focus, which is what Lanza's flower farm is today.
So you had been looking for a farm and you didn't find one right away, but eventually met Bill Lanza. And he was in his 80s at the time, I believe. And what was going on with him? And I know a few other people had approached him about maybe purchasing his farm, and he wasn't really too receptive. So tell me just briefly about that.
Correct. Yes. So I looked at a few places locally, and I lost a few places. And just by luck, I stumbled on Bill Lanza's property. We had a mutual friend who introduced us, and we met. He liked me. I liked him. He was cautious as any older farmer would be with a younger guy coming in, but we really hit it off. And again, he was cautious in the beginning because at his age, he wasn't really sure who he wanted to let, take over or get the next time here on the land. So, we had a day or so where we met and talked things out, and it went great. So, one thing led to another, and we ended up kind of putting something together.
So in the end, you purchased the farm in 2020. What did it feel like when the purchase was finally complete?
It felt great. It was felt like I was, coming home in a way, and it was a truly a natural feeling, and it was genuine on both ends. The Lanzas and myself both almost were breathing a sigh of relief that the both of us wanted to do it.
Yeah, because he couldn't keep up with it anymore and he was looking for the right person, and that was a great connection that you made.
Right.
So, what changes did you make to the farm?
So when I first got here, Mr. Lanza was a tree and shrub farmer. So he was called like a nurseryman. He did trees and shrubs and things like that. I'm more of a greenhouse grower. So when I got here, the property was a little bit in a state of disrepair. So we, cleaned it all up. I built a bunch of greenhouses, cleaned up, the back field, cleaned up all of the areas up by where retail was. So we almost converted it, even though it was a working nursery, into a working flower farm. I have a passion of being a beekeeper, so I always said if I ever had the opportunity to be a beekeeper in a commercial fashion, I would. So I incorporated beekeeping onto the farm. So we have an active apiary of probably about 40 to 45 hives that we maintain and harvest honey from.
What is that like to keep bees? Do you do the work yourself or you have someone else doing it?
I do. I do all the work myself. I learned the trade in high school. So I went to a high school where there were two teachers that were beekeepers, and they were kind of like mentors of mine. And they ended up teaching me kind of how to become a beekeeper. So I learned back in high school. So nowadays on the farm, I do all the work myself. I have a few people that help me on the farm. And what's fun is all of my kids have an interest in beekeeping too. So two of my kids have kind of taken on the role of being the beekeepers on the farm.
And you have four children all together, and I know they've all helped on the farm at one time or another. So, especially because you have bees, I imagine that you practice like environmentally friendly processes for the farm. Is that important to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So keeping the bees, is one component of being a good steward of the environment is like no pesticides, environmentally healthy practices. So we don't spray harsh pesticides. We tend to use beneficial insects opposed to harsh chemicals to help keep the bad bugs away. That's kind of a technical end of what we do, but the secondary part of it is because our greenhouses are clean and free of pesticides, the bees aren't going to be adversely affected by it. And all of my back fields that we use, for pumpkins and gourds and stuff, again, no pesticides, and that's where the bees tend to forage for most of their food anyway. So there's like an ancillary or a symbiotic relationship between what we do on the flower farm and what I also do with the bees.
Beyond finding your own sense of purpose by purchasing this farm and making it into its own successful business, thousands of people come to the farm in order to buy little plants for their own backyard gardening. What does that mean to you that you're kind of spreading the joy? And what are the benefits to other people of gardening?
One of my greatest rewards, other than the work being hard work and rewarding because the end product is so nice, it's also this idea of making other people, when they come to shop at the farm, makes them feel good too, because they're buying flowers to make their homes prettier and better. And I find it very rewarding to be able to do that. People thank us, whether it's a $20 purchase or a $200 purchase. We're always getting a thank you. We're always getting great positive feedback for how good our product looks. So it makes me feel really good to be able to service our customer base and make them educated, confident, and happy too that they're going to be bringing flowers into their home.
The flowers are beautiful, but also tell me about some of the benefits to the people of actually gardening. There are benefits to your physical and your mental health.
Yeah, so the physical aspect is great. Anytime you're outside in nature, at least this is the way I feel, and I'm sure most people do too. When the sun is out and it's warm, it's great to be outside, and it's great to kind of get yourself creatively involved in your backyard or creatively involved in potting up containers. Physical work, not the hardest work, but it's physical. It is rewarding, and mentally, it's a great place to kind of invest your headspace too, because it's flowers and sun and good weather. So,
Can be very relaxing and even awe-inspiring when what you planted actually grows. I'm always in awe when whatever I plant actually grows. I'm always very pleasantly surprised when it works out.
yep, always a learning process with everybody, and it's nice when you have the win.
So, New Jersey is the nation's most densely populated state, and we're known as the Garden State because there used to be just so many farms in New Jersey, not nearly as many now. How do you feel about the importance of preserving farmland in New Jersey?
Very important. We live in Wall Township, so it's a rural township, but being like you said, Sandy, like a densely populated state, Wall Township is getting pretty densely populated, but it is a rural community. The idea of open space is great. It almost goes without saying when you drive past a farm, you get a certain feeling of open airiness, and that's a great feeling for everybody. People love us. I love this place because it's my passion project, and I love it because I work here every day, and I'm happy to do it. But when we hear from customers how great of a feeling it is to come on the farm or shop at the farm, it makes us feel great because all the hard work we do, obviously, you can see in their faces that it's appreciated. So when people come to our place, we've got old farm wagons, we've got tractors, and we're very much a farm, and we very much look like a farm. And I think that's a feeling that people like to buy into because when they come out here talking about open space, there's a great sense of tying into farmland or agriculture or nature. So it's a great feeling, and we get really good feedback on it.
Now, you've been there for quite some time, doing all the hard work and seeing the beauty of the farm every day. Do you still get that sense of awe and wonder when you look at the land?
I do. Every day I do. Even interesting question, and I'm glad you asked it. Every time I drive in, Sandy, I look at this place and I say, wow, it feels like home. There's not a day that goes by when I'm not grateful and in awe of how, beautiful the place is and how great it is for me and all the people who are associated with it.
Now, as we said earlier, you do have 4 children. 3 of them are college aged. Do you think any of them will carry on the legacy?
I'm not sure. All 4 of them are their own kids and their own people, and they have their own interests in life. I will say they've all taken to the farm 100% and loved it the way that I love it. Where they'll go with their careers or professions, I don't know. Maybe at some point they'll go do something and come back here, or maybe one day one will raise his hand and want to do it. I don't know.
So perhaps you're going to find yourself in the position that you were in and Mr. Lanza was in at a point not that long ago of looking for that perfect person to take over your farm. Well, Chris Difeo, thank you so much for doing your part to keep open space in New Jersey and farmland in New Jersey. And thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you. Happy to do it, and nice talking.
If you found today's show helpful, please share the information with someone who needs it and follow Still Time for Joy for more practical tips on weathering life's storms, as well as inspiring stories of people who have turned their pain into purpose. Please consider supporting the work that goes into producing the show on Patreon. Follow Sandra Levine Productions on Facebook and YouTube, and learn more at sandralevine.com.